Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted and I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchist Dave.
So today we have a GM 911 from Matthew, and he wants to know how to make a 1v mini encounter interesting, and he's got a Judge Dredd type guy.
Maybe you guys have a GM 911 you'd like Nerdarchy to help you with. You can visit us on the forum at nerdarchy.com, or you can go to nerdarchy@gmail.com, and we'll take your suggestions there.
All right, so, when you have an adventuring party set up against a single adversary, it can be really tricky.
So, yeah, essentially that dude's getting gangbanged by the party. There's nothing you can do. They're going to crowd around and they're going to beat the shit out of him.
And he wants to avoid that, just surround the dude, beat on him. It's not a very interesting encounter.
Okay, here's what you do. 5th edition actually offers up some solutions. They're not great, but they're solutions. One, you're going to have to give him lair actions. You're going to have to give him legendary actions. And you're going to have to give him legendary resistances. So, like, the mechanics are there, right? You just, boom, make this guy a legendary monster. If you haven't read Curse of Strahd or haven't looked at it, the way they do the NPCs in that book is phenomenal. Now, I've heard Mike Merle say he just does his NPCs just like they are, as he would a player character class, but I love the way they do them in Strahd. I think you should throw out the PHB and, take whatever flavors you want and just add them and use basically build NPCs like they are in the back of the monster manual. But in this case, this is a specific NPC, so you flavor it towards what you want. You can give him some cool abilities to make up. Maybe he has the parry action, or where you can call it something else, so he can use a reaction to increase his armor class and maybe stop attacks from happening. If he's using magic, maybe he has certain spells he can use as a reaction. He has shield that he can throw up, and then coming up with lair actions as well, because it's going to take. The encounter is supposed to take place in like a courtroom, almost.
Right? Because he wants it to be like a Judge Dredd type situation. This is the judge, jury, and executioner, and he's there to kill the player characters. So if you're in a courtroom, all right, so you've got essentially a staired situation for where the jurors are supposed to be. He's got his raised dais where the judge is supposed to sit. So that's probably where he's going to be. So you want to use the terrain, give him some of these reactions or legendary actions that he can use. Perhaps he has the ability to move. Maybe he can use his reaction to divert an attack, from one of the other players onto another player.
I mean, there's precedence for that in the book. There's monsters that have similar abilities. The Goblin Boss does, but it's for another Goblin bad guy. But you could change it up.
But when you're doing a badass type character, it's like, all right, well, I'm surrounded. Well, I'm used to this kind of crap.
Just remember, right, when you're making up your lair actions and your legendary actions, make sure you use cool names like Hung Jury or something, and just figure out what that means, right. Like whether it's magical, whether it's mundane, and really, like, you can use those abilities to kind of like represent stuff that aren't really like I know that he wants to only have the one figure in there, but if you did put a jury in there, like maybe his legendary action is like the mob charges forward and does something, and like attacking them doesn't really do anything, or maybe they're even a phantom mob. Like maybe the jury is made up of illusions that basically look like him, because he had even said, should I give him a mirror image right, and have it pop up? Well, why give him a mirror image when you can do something really interesting? Right. Like if you're not adverse to using magic in this encounter, what if he has a supernatural presence where he's the judge, he's the jury, as in the jury stands are full of him, and he's the executioner, and you can tie specific abilities to these, and you can work off of like a hit point pool. Whatever the players decide to do, it's still based off the same hit points, the same, maybe specific spell effects will only work if you actually target him with them, or maybe like that's the nature of his legendary resistances, where he like deflects it to the executioner, or or to the jury members or something like that, and it kind of like diffuses the power.
Maybe like maybe the jury has resistance to magical energies, and the executioner has resistance to physical.
Well, maybe. I wouldn't do it that way because like it's still all one person is what you want to do. And that is also another thing. Like if you wanted to give them resistance to certain to non-magical attacks or certain types of attacks to make them a little bit tougher to kind of withstand your party. But yeah, I think I would use legendary actions and lair actions and legendary resistances, and they're going to help. And really like for this is essentially a solo monster, so he's got to have a lot of hit points for the encounter.
Absolutely.
Or we're going to go down. Like as the GM, generally, how much damage your players can do in a round, and like if you do the math and he goes down in 2 rounds, and you want it to be a more challenging, interesting fight, then he needs to have more hit points.
Absolutely.
And you have to go and consider what happens about crits and stuff like that. So it's definitely doable, though. You can definitely work with it, or like Ted was even saying, like, or some version of where the jury and the executioner are like their own kind of monster. You could do something with that. Like there's swarms in the back of the book. You can make the mob swarm.
Ooh, nice. So I will tell you this point of advice. I've been gaming with Dave for a long time, and he's called me on a number of times over the years. Don't do the situation where it's like, well, the monster's got enough hit points to survive for as many rounds as I want, or to this particular point. It was a mistake I made, back in the day. Your monster, you want it to be a challenging situation, but if the players get the drop, or if the players manage to get lucky, you have to let the numbers be what they are, and they're going to enjoy the story of, man, we dropped that thing and like this, and those stories where the players do something really, really awesome are much better than that monster was a challenge, because though it might have been a challenge, but they're not going to tell that story over and over again. The
fluke thing that no one ever expected.
That Hydra failed the saving throw versus petrification, and now there's this giant statue. That's a story that we've been telling for 15 years.
Yeah. So yeah, you basically you create your things and then you release them into the game, and then whatever happens. I mean, as a DM, I roll my dice in front of the players, so I don't even care. Whatever happens. If they get credit to death, they get credit to death. The dice did it, not me. Just the guy that drops them.
You blame the dice.
I blame the dice.
All right, so if you have any suggestions for Matthew of how to make his Judge Dredd encounter, more awesome, more cool, go ahead and put in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, even subscribe.
And follow us on Instagram.
So until next time, stay nerdy.